When you picture a European country, what comes to mind? For many, it's sprawling medieval castles, with towering stone walls and dramatic turrets. Think of Germany's Neuschwanstein, or the countless chateaux of France's Loire Valley. But when you think of the Netherlands, you probably picture windmills, canals, and tulips. And you'd be right. But have you ever stopped to wonder why? Why does a country with such a rich and turbulent history have so few of those classic medieval castles we see elsewhere in Europe? Today, we're diving into the fascinating story behind the Netherlands' missing castles. It's a tale of geography, politics, warfare, and a uniquely Dutch approach to power. So, grab a coffee, get comfortable, and let's explore this historical mystery together. First, let's get one thing straight. The Netherlands did have castles, hundreds of them. In fact, during the High Middle Ages, from around the 10th to the 13th centuries, local lords and nobles across the Low Countries built castles just like their counterparts in France and the Holy Roman Empire. These were symbols of power and crucial military strongholds. Places like Moedet near Amsterdam or Kasteel de Haar near Utrecht give us a glimpse of what these magnificent structures were like. They were the real deal, stone fortresses with moats, drawbridges, and all the classic medieval features. So, the question isn't why they weren't built, but rather, where did they all go? The first major reason is geography. The Netherlands is famously flat and wet. The name itself means lowlands. Much of the country is at or below sea level, composed of soft peat and clay soil. Now, imagine trying to build a massive, multi-ton stone castle on that kind of ground. It's an engineering nightmare. The foundations would constantly sink and shift. While Dutch engineers became masters of water management, building on such unstable ground was incredibly expensive and difficult. Stone itself was also scarce. Unlike regions with rocky hills and quarries, most of the Netherlands had to import its building stone, usually from Germany or Belgium, shipping it down rivers like the Rhine and the Meuse. This made construction costs skyrocket. So many castles were actually built with brick, a much cheaper and more readily available local material. While sturdy brick structures were often less imposing and less durable against later forms of attack than the massive stone fortresses found elsewhere. But geography is only part of the story. The real drama unfolds in the political landscape of the late Middle Ages. As trade flourished, Dutch cities like Amsterdam, Delft, and Leiden grew incredibly wealthy and powerful. These cities and their merchant classes began to challenge the authority of the feudal lords and their castles. The balance of power was shifting from the landed nobility to the urban bourgeoisie. These cities built their own impressive defenses, not castles, but massive city walls, gates, and moats. Their power wasn't based in a single fortified home, but in the collective strength and wealth of their entire urban community. They wanted trade and stability, not the constant squabbles of petty nobles. This rise of the cities fundamentally changed the political and military map. And that brings us to the next crucial factor: gunpowder. The arrival of cannons in the 14th and 15th centuries was a game-changer for medieval warfare. Those beautiful, high stone walls that were so effective against arrows and catapults. They were incredibly vulnerable to cannonballs. A well-aimed cannon shot could shatter stone walls, turning a once impenetrable fortress into a pile of rubble. Castles, as they were traditionally designed, were becoming obsolete. Military architecture had to adapt, leading to the development of new types of fortifications. Lower, thicker, star-shaped forts designed to deflect cannon fire. The age of the knight in shining armor in his romantic castle was coming to a violent end. The final, and perhaps most destructive, chapter for Dutch castles was the 80 Years' War, which began in 1568. This was the Dutch revolt against Spanish rule, a long and brutal conflict that forged the identity of the Netherlands as an independent nation. During this war, castles became major strategic targets. Both the Dutch rebels and the Spanish armies understood that controlling castles meant controlling the surrounding territory. What followed was a systematic process of slighting, a fancy word for intentionally demolishing fortifications to prevent the enemy from using them. If a castle was captured, the victorious side would often blow up its walls, fill in its moats, and burn it to the ground. It was a scorched earth policy. A castle you couldn't defend was a liability, a potential stronghold for your enemy. So hundreds of medieval castles were deliberately destroyed by both sides during these 8 decades of intense warfare. It was a military necessity that wiped much of the medieval landscape clean. After the war, with the Dutch Republic firmly established, there was little appetite for rebuilding these old symbols of feudal power. The Netherlands had become a republic dominated by merchants, not by a king or a powerful aristocracy. The focus was on commerce, trade, and building the country's economic might, not on constructing lavish castles. Wealth was poured into beautiful canal houses in Amsterdam, grand city halls, and a powerful navy to protect global trade routes. The new symbols of power were warehouses filled with spices and grand paintings by masters like Rembrandt and not cold, drafty castles. What was left of the old castles often fell into ruin. They were quarried for their valuable stone to build new houses and farms. Over the centuries, many simply crumbled away, their stones repurposed, their moats filled in, their memory fading into the landscape. Some were converted into more comfortable country manors or estates in the 17th and 18th centuries, losing their original military character. Their defensive walls were torn down and replaced with elegant gardens. So, when you visit the Netherlands today, you're not seeing a land that lacked a medieval past. You're seeing the result of a unique historical journey. A journey shaped by soft soil and a lack of stone, by the rise of powerful cities that eclipsed the nobility, by the devastating arrival of gunpowder, and by a nation-defining war that saw castles as strategic liabilities to be destroyed. The absence of castles tells a story of its own, a story of pragmatism, of a shift from feudalism to a modern merchant republic, and of a people who chose to invest their wealth not in stone fortresses, but in building a new kind of nation, one founded on trade, tolerance, and water. The few castles that do remain, like Moederslot or the heavily restored De Haar, are precious survivors. They are often beautifully preserved and give us a vital window into this lost world. But they are the exceptions that prove the rule. The real Dutch castle is the city itself, the network of canals, and the indomitable spirit that turned a waterlogged corner of Europe into a global powerhouse. So, the next time you're cycling through the flat Dutch landscape, remember the ghosts of the castles beneath your feet. Their story is a powerful reminder that history is as much about what is absent as it is about what remains. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this historical deep dive interesting, please hit that like button and subscribe for more stories from around the world. Let me know in the comments which country's history you'd like me to explore next. Until then, see you in the next video.